here we are, the end of January, and I have amazing news.
Yeah, I don't wanna slow down, I don't wanna slow down, I don't wanna slow down till I burn out. I just wanna live fast, I don't wanna look back and say I could've done more than I did not. Sometimes it can be hard, yeah, it can be hard, yeah, it can be hard when you grow up. People fill you with doubt, you start thinking about what you're gonna do now. But
Finally, amazing news. I got my pre-authorization. As I said in my short, where I was more or less expressing my rage at the system the way that it is, it took 22 days. It took an urgent care visit, an ER visit, 4 visits, 2 with my specialist GI, 1 with my dermatologist, and 1 with an ophthalmologist to handle all of the reactions that my body had to not having the medication that I need. I've had inflammation, I guess one would say, of my joints and a lot of pain, residual pain from the shingles mess. I had a contact allergy in the middle of all of that. I have some lingering scarring from the shingles that I am working to get rid of. It'll go away in time. The pain has remained, so sleep has been a really big issue. In fact, last night was a dream. I took Benadryl, a double dose, and it like knocked me out for a good 9 hours, which my body needed because I was unable to get more than about 4 hours of sleep since January the 8th or 9th when this rash all began. And then there was the actual Crohn's symptoms, the stuff that I deal with on a regular basis when my medicine is delayed, and that would look like awful nausea, trouble keeping food down, and just diarrhea like I haven't had in years. And I know that sounds like a lot, and a lot of people out there are probably like, whoa, TMI. Listen, the disease is what it is. I don't get to choose what the symptoms look like. And your discomfort with me talking about those symptoms really isn't my problem. So all I'm gonna say on that is I'm gonna continue to talk about the symptoms that I experience because there are thousands of people out there, hundreds of thousands, millions probably around the world, that are suffering from this disease and absolutely connect with what I'm saying. So I did see a few comments that I actually pulled from the short and the last vlog that were just talking about I don't know, I'm not even gonna get into it. It's not important. The point is, if I see comments about too much information or why do we have to hear about this, click away, unsubscribe. Lots of you did after that video shifting from AuthorTube. So I'm okay with that. I expected that. But again, I'm gonna delete your comment if that's what you have to say. And what I'll say to everyone else, whoa, I'm gonna need to turn this fan off because it's gonna be real loud in my audio. Timeout. It's working. What I'll say to that is, and I want to respond to one in particular because one was from someone that I know fairly well in the former niche that I was in, and they made a comment that I think was meant to be funny or kind of a joke. And all I'm gonna say about it is, this is my space. It's the equivalent of my house. It would be like coming in my house and telling me you think it's ugly or you don't like my decorating, then leave. Like, I'm not really sure what else to say to you beyond that. But this space is gonna be wholly dedicated to my journey with Crohn's, coming to terms with being disabled, coming to terms with what it's like to work with a disability, and go through the process of trying to live a normal, which I hate that term, but a relatively stable, I like that term better, a stable life that is not impacted as often by the disease that I'll have the rest of my life. For those of you who heard in my rage some stuff you didn't want to hear, I'm sorry. I'm just talking about what the experience is like, and I'm going to be honest about it. Let's talk a little bit about what's been going on since last week when we last checked in. And at the outset of the week, because this is a Friday to Friday filming cycle for me, I had 2 amazing days in that week, and they both happened to revolve around being an instructor for a lab in the business school. First day of my new class. Nervous. Excited. So, let's go. Seem a little miffed. She's mad I'm leaving. I know. Hi, husband. All right. I'm as ready as I'm gonna be.
Are you leaving now?
I can't. You blocked me in. I'm leaving whenever you get out of my way.
We'll show you leaving in like 4 minutes.
Perfect. Then I'll go to the bathroom and then I'll leave. I love you. Have a good day.
You too.
Gosh, it's cold. Cold, 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 cold. Ooh, heated seats, heated seats, heated seats. Goodness, it's cold. And I'm working with mostly freshmen. I have a few upperclassmen that are working towards a degree in business. And the point of the lab is to get them to engage and discuss the material they're learning in their main lecture class, which is all about basic business skills, resume writing, LinkedIn writing, presenting themselves in a mock interview, basically getting them ready for the workforce. And what I have found so rewarding has been working with these folks, rewarding and humbling both at the same time, but a lot of fun. My first class, I was very, very rusty. I had not been in front of students or taught anything in a number of years. Here we go. It had been a minute since I'd been in front of students, and I forgot how intimidating they are. Like, just intimidating, right? Like being in front of a bunch of people, young people especially, who don't want to be there and are pretty sure they're cooler than you for sure, which, to be honest, probably most of them are, and also smarter than you, which most of them probably also are. It's kind of scary, but also thrilling and fun. And I found myself improving from last week to this week. So, you know, my first week I gave myself a 6 out of 10 for the class. I'm a harsh grader. I went too fast through my slides. I was supposed to take 45 minutes and it took closer like 35. So I gotta slow down. But this was fun. This was so much fun. So here we go. 1 down, 13 to go.
Only got one chance and got one life to live, and it's do or die, gotta make it count. So lose your worries, let your problems go on until my whole body burns out. I ain't never gonna slow down.
Let's see how mad Miss Briley is at me for going back to work today, since she's very used to me being at home. Let's see. Hi, Jungle Girls. Did you take a naps? Are you still mad at me for going to work? Oh, big stretch. Hi, Dad. I did. Oh my gosh, I took a little nap when I was guarding the house. Took a little naps. Little naps to guard the house. A 6 out of 10. Didn't impress myself too much. But this last week I felt I was getting into the groove. I felt myself feeling the class more and veering not away from the material, but into my own examples and my own real world career experiences and opening up conversations with them about their real world experiences and really having a dialogue and doing a pretty good job, if I do say so myself, of getting almost every kid in the class to participate. So that was a really good feeling and rewarding, and also getting them to communicate with one another even when they disagreed. Still not feeling ready. Last week I was a 6 out of 10 for sure. This week I'm hoping to get up to a 7 or 8 out of 10. Better prepared. They're still kind of scary and intimidating, even though they're freshmen. Like, yeah. Anyway, talk to you after. Okay, class 2 went better. I'm giving myself a 7 out of 10. I'm tough on myself, maybe an 8. Class was better today. They talked more, they engaged more. We're doing better. Okay, here we go. So that was a lot of fun and really kind of reminded me why I love working in academia and higher education in general. So I had kind of lost that or gotten away from that. So I'm kind of glad to have it back. Humbling experience. I had a student tell me my first day that they were gonna look bored in my class. Not because I was a bad instructor, although they hadn't determined that yet. They would let me know at the end. I loved the honesty and I told them this. But they also told me that they'd done all this before. And, you know, I'm an upperclassman, I've done all this before, this is a new requirement for my degree. Okay, fair. I do think telling the instructor the first day that you're going to be look bored in their class because you are, probably not the route I would go, but to each their own. Definitely my highlight of the week, or the thing that is currently really a bright spot for me, is that class and that interaction with young people, and how rewarding it's been. And the other highlight of the week is I got my promotion officially this week. So as of this week, it's official that my co-lead and I are now in charge of not only the departments we were in charge of before, but now officially another department, very large departments, over a large portfolio. So we are the co-leads of a large portfolio of departments within the largest college on campus. That's scary and thrilling and rewarding. It feels good to feel like you're doing a good job and to be told you're doing a good job. I got my mid-year review as well. I've only been there 6 months, so the promotion was definitely kind of a surprise to not be there very long and be promoted. That was great. But the review was also really positive. And even the part that was critical was, and it was critical, and it is something I take to heart because I'm a big fan of critique. We all are as writers, if you're a writer out there. But the feedback was basically that I need to quit being afraid of asking questions and looking like I'm ignorant. Of course I will be, I'm new. So to ask questions and not waste so much time looking for the answers myself in an effort to keep my bosses from having to help. Thought that was good feedback. I intend to take that to heart. So that was a real highlight of the week. On the flip side of that, something I intend to talk about in future videos, once I have this Remicade infusion that I was waiting on, I intend to talk about how stressful it is to be disabled and have to work through a flare, which has been this month for me. The idea that several of my dreams came true at one time, the promotion, so my career kind of being stabilized and thriving, and then the opportunity to instruct a class, all of that happening and coming at the same time that my medicine is denied and my body totally revolts in all sorts of different and unusual and awful ways, was really terrifying and stressful and weighed on me heavily. Sleep was elusive because of the pain, as I said, from the rashes. So I was low on sleep, highly fatigued, incredibly uncomfortable when I did have to be on campus, because I did go to campus for several meetings and things that I just could not miss. I had to be there. It's the first time in a long time I've had to live with that fear of, am I gonna have an accident? And I've had to take a change of clothes. And I actually, in this month, did have an accident on campus, which was equal parts humiliating and humbling all at the same time. And again, I intend to talk about that experience a little more in a future video. Once my accommodation plan is officially a done deal at the university, I'm going to talk about that process, how long it was, how stressful it was. To be fair, the department that handles that made it incredibly easy, and it was super simple to do. And I would encourage anyone who has the opportunity to file for an accommodation plan at work, if you are disabled, to do it, even if you don't think you need it. Have it on hand. It's something official that you can keep to make sure that you have the accommodations you need to be a success. What I would say is the stressful part was the waiting for it to come through. It wasn't the process in and of itself, and I would encourage anyone to do it if you are going through or think you could have anything happen to your health that might impact your work. It's important to do it. And again, I intend to do a deep dive into what that discussion looked like, the advice I was given, etc., when I do that video. So look for that in the future. I look forward to talking about it once the plan is finalized. Lots of experiences this month that reminded me how hard it is to work full-time, maintain a career, maintain your dignity, while going through what I can only describe as a healthcare crisis. Again, as I've said a million times, I'm grateful I have access to healthcare. I'm very frustrated with the way the system works, and I'm going to continue to call out the myriad of different ways that it fails patients repeatedly in the United States. So again, I know this doesn't apply to everyone around the world. If you happen to live in a country that provides healthcare as a basic human right to everyone, access to everyone, I'm so happy for you, because the way it works here in America is really backwards and leaves a lot of room for patients to have to not only advocate for themselves when we're at our lowest, but also to have to go through unnecessary breaks in treatment like I experienced with this pre-authorization battle. So, but as I said in the open, I did get the approval. Oh, thank goodness. Because my drip is so long, it's a 4-hour time span to get 1,200 milligrams pumped into me. Because that takes so long, 4 hours, it took about a week from the point that I was approved to when I'll be sitting in the chair. So I won't actually be in the infusion chair until the 30th. So that's a little scary. That is frustrating. That gives me pause. However, again, something is moving on it, and I feel like it's happening soon. So therefore, I don't feel anything but grateful. But I can also say with absolute certainty, it sucks. I hate having to wait an additional week. Is just awful, because as I said, the Crohn symptoms are just wildly out of control. You know, I'm trying to manage the diarrhea portion, which for those of you that think this is TMI, this is the point where you're going to want to whoop out of this conversation. But most of the digestive stuff, nausea, and which I manage with tea, a great ginger tea that I found that a friend recommended for me, that helps a lot with the nausea. I also did start taking a nausea medication that my GI prescribed to me. I've been down the road of dangerously thin in the past, and I've again shared that in vlogs. That's something I'm going to talk about in upcoming videos as well. But I would much rather be eating and keeping food in my body for a myriad of reasons, not the least of which is, as a Crohn's patient, we already have deficiencies in vitamins and minerals that are absorbed through food. I don't want to compound that by going without eating, because a lot of us, when we're in a bad spot with our digestive system or we're in a flare, either the sound of food is awful and you just don't want to do it because you don't want to deal with the consequences of the pain of digestion. When I say pain of digestion, I don't know that I can describe it any better than imagine eating something like pudding that is also filled with glass. And then imagine digesting broken glass through your digestive system all the way from essentially your esophagus to the point of when you expel it through your rectum. I've described it to my doctor like it feels like a concrete truck, and I have a bunch of gravel turning in my digestive tract as it goes through. It's awful. And so I completely understand, which I didn't when I was first diagnosed, why folks may avoid eating altogether. That wasn't an option for me, and I knew I needed to at least keep food going and keep my digestive tract moving, and even if it was painful, even if it was diarrhea and not solid or whatever, I needed to keep eating. So I did take nausea medication. That actually did help, and I'm glad we got that. You know, it meant giving up some things that I love for a little while. I can't have too much coffee for obvious reasons, so I'm sticking to tea, specifically uncaffeinated tea, because the sleep has been a big problem. I find myself eating more bland stuff, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, especially for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. I think that's kind of the least you can do to manage really awful diarrhea and digestive symptoms, is just to make it as simple as possible on your digestive tract. So I'm not being too wild with my food choices while working through this situation. And for the most part, I think that has helped soften the landing of all of this. How do I say this? It's really hard to not be angry or bitter. Especially when you're in pain or like when the lack of sleep was really taking hold, to not sit there and think, but for the denial of my medication at the beginning of the month, I might have avoided all of this, right? That's a gut punch I don't think I'll ever be able to put into words for anyone. And I consider myself a writer, pretty good at expressing myself through words. This one is just one I can't quite get to, because it feels cruel and unusual. It feels punitive. It feels targeted. it feels awful. And at some point you say to yourself, it has to change. This can't stay this way. You can't every year worry that you're going to have some sort of, oh God, hang on. Oh, it's okay. I'm okay. I don't know why I got emotional about that. I can't, for my mental health, worry that every year I'm going to have to fight for the basics. There has to be an expiration date on that. So it has to change. This system is much better than it was, but it's still broken, and we need a solution. That's a rabbit hole for another day. I did have the follow-up with my dermatologist. That went well. The initial rash from the shingles stuff, the contact allergy on the other side of my body, that's all for the most part under control since I took all of the medications and completed the antivirals, the antibiotics, as well as the steroid creams that they gave me. They did prescribe a few others. I am going to have an allergy panel done to try to find out what the contact allergen was. I've always been told when I had those panels done that I didn't have any allergies or no known allergies. I expect that to change because this dermatologist seemed very, very sure that, you know, what I experienced on one side was for sure a contact allergy, and a pretty severe one at that. So I look forward to having that panel done in the next 4 to 5 months when they can get me in, and we're going to figure out what is going on with that. She gave me some great options to treat the scarring, to treat the issues that I'm having ongoing from occasional itching and the discomfort and pain part. They offered a light prescription pain medication. I actually declined it. I usually do that because for several reasons. One, my bilirubin is pretty high, which is not uncommon when my Crohn symptoms are unchecked. Bilirubin, for those of you that don't know, is a measurement they use on your liver to see how it's functioning. So that was indicating that there was some distress going on there. So I didn't want to throw any more medications at it than were necessary. And the other thing that cronies out there will always know is anytime, or at least in my experience, anytime I've ever taken a pain medication, it has resulted in some really, really bad constipation, which causes all sorts of other problems for me Crohn's wise. So not really worth it. But the ability to occasionally take a little Tylenol has been a godsend. So, and again, the Benadryl double dose last night, giving me a full night's sleep. I just cannot tell you how wonderful that was. And Ricky getting up with chunkers to take her for walks and everything, so I didn't have to, which he does a lot, actually, because I kind of sleep like the dead normally, and she can't wake me up. She can definitely wake him up. But lately, since I haven't been sleeping very well, she's been able to get me up, and him giving me that break last night so I could get a full chunk of sleep was so great. And I just can't tell you how lucky I am to have him and my incredibly supportive family all around. All in all, I think my takeaway from this last week, just the relief that washed over me on Wednesday when I finally got the notice that I had been approved. I cried. I needed time to myself. I had to come in here and kind of gather myself. And part of me regrets not filming that for you, just so you can see what that relief looked like. I honestly didn't think of it in the moment because it was one of those that was just an organic rush of relief. I realized as I was kind of crying and letting out that emotion, how much the stress impacts all of this. The stress of will I, won't I? That's unbearable and awful. And if you've experienced that, my goodness, I empathize with you. I'm sorry that it's the way that it is. And I hope it changes. We're close. We're almost there. From today, 5 more days, and I'll be in an infusion chair and improving and feeling better. And things will be turning around for me. Thank goodness. I needed that break. I needed that relief. Just like you can never imagine. So that's been amazing. And I hope that you guys will join me on this journey because, again, this is not the end. This is the beginning. And I intend to keep you up to date weekly with what it looks like to live with this and try to not only live but thrive. It's got its challenges for sure. But I also want to show that it's not undoable and that it is, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can, your dreams can come true. Things can work out for you and still have moments of setbacks and be okay, because I feel like I'm living that every day. And a lot of us out there are. Something new that I'm going to be doing is a podcast. It's called Gut Instinct. The first episode will air on Sunday, and on my channel, it will first air as a live stream, and then I intend to edit it down and release those as podcasts as well. I'm really excited about it. The first episode is going to be all about my journey with Crohn's, and more specifically my diagnosis journey and how long and windy that road was to an accurate diagnosis. Again, that feels important for me to share because I'm far enough away from it now, years in fact. I have the perspective to look back on it and feel more grounded in what living with this looks like than I was when I started this channel and had been recently diagnosed. So I know in some of my older Crohn's videos, which a lot of you have been watching, which is wonderful. I'm so glad to see all of my Let's Talk About Butt Stuff videos climbing my top 10 playlist for YouTube. That was early on in my diagnosis. You know, I had just been diagnosed when I did that series. So I kind of feel lucky to revisit it now that I have the beauty of hindsight and can look back and feel more experienced in what this is like and what living with this is like. I have lots of fun interviews planned with some folks that I'm friends with on YouTube who also have IBD Crohn's, but also I'm going to visit with my mom and talk about what it's like to be a parent of someone with Crohn's disease and what it's like to be in her shoes and watch this. I'm going to interview my beautiful husband, Ricky, because, you know, he is the person that I can always count. Ricky's the person I can always count on to go above and beyond and make sure I'm okay. Whatever that means, physically, mentally, whatever. Ricky's my human. And if you don't have you a human like that, get you one. I had a comment actually on an old Crohn's video that I'm gonna share a snapshot of real quick. And it kind of broke my heart. The questioner, the person who asked me the question, was telling me they were going to have cetons placed, and they'd just gotten married and they were worried that their partner wouldn't look at them the same. And it's so hard to answer those questions because, first of all, they totally won't look at you the same, but it's not in a bad way. And that's the thing. And first of all, we all have that feeling. We all have that moment where we think, are they still going to love me if they have to go through all of this with me? This is a lot. And in my experience, the answer is a resounding yes. You know, the through thick and thin thing is one of the most important vows, because you're saying, no matter what, I'm going to be with you. And if your person's worth a darn, they will be too. And what's crazy is how much experiences like this bring you closer together and open up dialogue that you never thought you'd have, and have discussions that are unique and things you couldn't even have imagined before your diagnosis because you hadn't been diagnosed. So you didn't have a clue what you were going to be facing. And so I would say, I said to this person in the comments of the video, but also I'd say it to them now if you're watching, they are going to love you as much, if not more. And honestly, for Ricky, he tells me over and over, his respect for me grew as he watched me fight, because it showed him really what I was made of and how tough I really was. And he always knew that because unfortunately he's had to live with me a long time. But seeing someone fight for the basics, especially in healthcare, a whole new respect develops, I think. And that's what I'd say to you is hang in there. They're going to love you even more and respect you even more because of what you're going through. Trust them, give them the chance to rise to the occasion, because, you know, there is no better way through this than with a supportive community, a supportive village, which I hope you find here as well. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for the love and support and the comments that tell me that you're with me in this, because it really means a lot and it hits me in the feels. And I'm more grateful than you could possibly imagine. With that, I'm gonna wish you all a happy week, and I will see you right back here next week to talk all about what happened at that infusion and how I'm feeling afterwards. Hoping I bounce back right away. I guess we're gonna find out. See you next week. Riley plans to just wait by Dad's car while it cools off. Now you two could fall on this and this could be a really bad idea.
The only way to get her in.
Yeah, because she's like, I'm ready to go to work, Dad.
Normal treats, give a treat, doesn't work.
Nope, I'm ready to go to work. That'll teach you to warm your car up, Dad.
Slow down.